The information provided in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as personal advice. Always consult with a qualified professional or expert in the relevant field for personalised advice tailored to your specific situation.
When going into a nursing home, there are a lot of different fees involved. So there is a basic daily care fee, which everyone pays, and which meant the client went in as a high means resident, so which means the client has got affordability to pay. Clearly in this instance, even though they were high means, they did not have capacity to pay. When I sat down with the spouse and went through the situation, we discussed the whole plan. She was just in tears to say that, Ricky, I can't afford it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Wealth Guide, sponsored by Riker Capital. My name is Tamara, and I am the practice manager, and I am excited. I have Ricky Redgme, one of our senior financial advisors, on the couch today.
Hey, Tamara.
Hello, Ricky. How are you?
Good, thank you. Well, good, thank you. Excited to be here talking about the client situation, so very excited.
Excellent. Well, we're going to dive into something called aged care. So that is a term that people hear about. They think about, when I'm older, or if they've got, more elderly, parents or grandparents in their family. But in the context of what the work that you do as a financial advisor, what does aged care advice entail, Ricky?
Exactly, Tamara. I get this question all the time. Like parents or the clients would come in and ask me, I'm going to a nursing home. Why do I need to see an advisor? And aged care is quite a specialised advice area where most licensees require the advisor to have a special or extra accreditation. So not every financial planner can do aged care. You need to have a special training for it. And why it is important, because when it comes to aged care, it's not only the financials, but it's also the Centrelink assessment of the client's entitlement of the benefits that they receive, as well as there are also entitlements on the fee that the client would be paying. So there's a means tested fee for the nursing home, and at the same time there's also Centrelink benefit that the client might be entitled to. So that's, for example, generally a client going into a nursing home, they're elderly. So most of the time they might be receiving some sort of government support, generally in form of age pension. Anytime they're doing a decision to move into a nursing home, sometimes they might sell a home, sometimes they might rent a house, sometimes they might have a family supporting them. So it's different scenarios, and each of different scenario gives a different assessment, if you will, from an aged care point of view and also from an age pension point of view.
Oh my, okay. I'm boggling right now too. Okay, no, that's kind of let's maybe dive into a case study then, so you can unpack it, because I can understand why you would need a specialist accreditation for this. I know we were talking about a couple that you had recently. So these are clients that you actually worked with. And one of the couple, I believe it was the gentleman, he became ill, no longer able to live at home. So he got assessed through the process to get into an aged care facility. And when you said a dollar fee and a cost, I believe the fee that was quoted was $150 a day to pay for that as well, which caused the clients a little bit of stress around the financial pressure that would result in.
Absolutely. So these were the clients referred to me by the accountant, because clients, so to give you a bit more about the background, husband had a illness where he had to go into hospital and ended up staying there for 4 weeks. So he was there for a whole month. Wife is a younger spouse, but she was still working part-time. And then because of the condition, the client got assessed in the hospital, what we call an ACAT assessment. So ACAT, which is Aged Care Assessment Team, that does the whole assessment based on what clients' needs are. Yeah. So based on that assessment, it was determined that client can no longer stay at home or should move into a nursing home for a better care.
Yep.
So, and the spouse started looking at different options that were around their home, and one of them, which they like, she got the assessment done, and like you said, the costs were coming out to be $150 a day.
Yep.
So which is about close to $55,000 a year.
Yeah.
And because the spouse is still working part-time, she wasn't really in a capacity to afford that expense. Because if you look at the super balance and her super balance and all the assets they've got combined, we were looking at their assets to finish off to run out of money in about 5 to 6 years' time.
That's a lot of stress. There's enough stress anyway because, you're aging, your partner's ill. It's a very big lifestyle change and you've got this financial stress as well.
Absolutely. So what happens is when someone goes into a nursing home or when someone is thinking about going to a nursing home, is the date of entry is quite critical. The date of entry, date of permanent care is what determines their Centrelink assessment. So when going into a nursing home, there are a lot of different fees involved. So there is a basic daily care fee, which everyone pays, which is set at about 85% of age pension limit. So for a client who's just on age pension, generally it means that they can age pension itself can absorb it. But then there's also means tested fee. So in this instance for that client, that was what the issue was because client had some amount of assets in their name, including super, which all got counted in calculating the means tested fee, which pushed the fee from $58 basic daily care fee, which is $60 now, to, because of mean testing, it went all the way up to $150 a day. And which meant the client went in as a high means resident. So which means the client has got affordability to pay. So the means testing is applied to determine can clients support themselves or not. Clearly in this instance, even though they were high means, they did not have capacity to pay. So when I sat down with the spouse and went through the situation, we discussed the whole plan, her situation, and she was just in tears to say that, Ricky, I can't afford it. And I do want to support my husband at the same time because she can't look after him and she wanted to provide better care for the partner at the same time. So working through the whole situation, what we did was because of the age gap.
Because she was about 6 years younger than him or something like
exactly
that. So
right.
a bit of an
age gap.
Yeah.
So what we before client moved into a nursing home, we did I sat down with her. We created a financial plan, and some of the main steps were husband super, for example. We had to draw that out because client was over 65, so he could draw that. So he had met the condition for release. So we got the super out. We transferred into spouse's name because she was younger. And when it comes to Centrelink assessments, the younger spouse, if they're under age pension age,
they're not assessed. Assets in their name.
Exactly. The super in their name does not count.
Okay.
Similar to house, for example, the house does not count as an asset because she was living in it. So as long as you have a spouse living in it, the house does not count as an asset. So what we did was we moved his super, most of it. We still left about $50,000 to $80,000 in his super because he still had insurances in there.
Right. Okay.
Now, that was important because of his health going down so bad.
You might be able to claim on some of those insurances.
Exactly right. So basically the point was if it comes down to disability, if the client's disabled, he can claim because he had life and disability insurance. Or worst case scenario, if the client was to pass away, then there's still, client had that insurance. So we still decided to have that super going and moved most of the money, including some of their savings, into her super.
Okay.
And what that did was...
Does that affect the assessment?
That affects the assessment.
Okay.
Because all of a sudden, husband's super and including their joint bank account got moved into her super, which meant that from a Centrelink assessment point of view, their asset had gone down significantly lower.
Right.
What that resulted in then was when the client applied for assessment with the Centrelink, when they were coming as a high means resident, they went down as a low means resident, which meant that the client did not have to pay the means tested care fee. Based on their situation, there was a RAC I don't want to go too technical, but refundable accommodation contribution,
Yep.
which is, as the name suggests, is refundable. So we left some money in the bank account to cover the rack. It was about $70,000 to $80,000. That goes to the nursing home, and upon clients passing, that gets returned back to the
reimbursed.
family.
Yep.
So overall, client was a low means resident. Their fees were covered by their age pension, and it was a much better outcome for the client because then her or their assets are not eroded by the fees, and she can then continue to work, continue to build her own retirement because
Yep.
she is still younger. She's got her own retirement things to plan. So it was just a better outcome, and client was so happy because all the nursing home fees were covered by age pension,
Yep.
or 85%, and then there was still some left over for her to cover other expenses. And yeah, it was a great outcome for her.
That is amazing. So really, I mean, and it is, again, I can't really stress enough because I had an elderly grandparent that I was supporting in making that decision too. It's the money and it's the emotion. You want to care for your loved one. You're in a vulnerable position. So you want to spend the money if you have to. But then the reality is, if I spend this money because I love this person, I can see that it's going to run into strife in the future. So you absolutely solve both those things.
Exactly. And that was the key, client wanting to have better care for her partner of 20, 30 years, and at the same time not affect the finances so much that in 6 years' time there's nothing left.
There's going to be another traumatic period
Exactly.
in their time.
And she's
lives.
got to, not being selfish, but she's also got to think about her own retirement as well at the same time. And most of the time there are options available. So I would encourage anyone thinking about putting their family member or going themselves into a nursing home to definitely have a talk to a financial planner.
before you do it, because to your point, it's before you actually pull the trigger and are in the system and made the decision.
Absolutely,
Yep.
because it's the date of entry.
The date of entry.
That is the critical.
If there's anything that people are taking away from this, the date of entry, talk to a financial advisor before you hit that point.
Absolutely. Well, there's still things around it that can be done.
Yep.
However, that is very critical. It's easier, much better if they see the advisor beforehand. Yep.
That sounds good. Thank you very much, Ricky. That was very informative. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tamara.